Hi everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today I have another story on firearms in the Gray Lady, the New York Times, that is pretty surprising in how it's approached. They have a new beat writer and I've gotten a little bit of insider information on him and I want to talk about this story and this writer. Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. Old age, you know, I'm gonna put the glasses on so I can do some reading while I'm talking to you about this stuff. And the story that is in the New York Times, and I get it. People in gun culture, in the Second Amendment communities, hear the New York Times and they hear trash. They hear absolute hit piece after absolute hit piece after absolute hit piece. But hang with me on this one. I actually think this one's pretty interesting. And maybe by hiring a firearms beat writer who knows a thing or two and is willing to be fair and kind of understands firearms owners from the inside, maybe, yeah, that's somebody that we might want to just give a little credibility to. Anyhow, the story is called The New American Gun Store: Grips, Grenade Launchers, and Ramen Noodles. An interesting subheading. A new crop of retailers is profiting more from limited edition accessories that sell out in minutes, drop culture, we'll talk about it, and promoting lifestyle gear to women, minority gun owners, and the LGBTQ community. Now that's an interesting, salacious title that is going to make people perk up all the time. Now, who wrote this stuff? Well, it's written by a guy named Thomas Gibbons Neff. Now, I've done a couple of news story kind of reviews on this channel, and this is the second one that I've done from Gibbons Neff, and I didn't realize kind of his background. I didn't really look him up until recently. He was a guest on The Reload on Stephen Gutowski's podcast. And if you listen to the ASP podcast, we have an episode with Stephen talking about news and Second Amendment stuff every week. Mike and Stephen talk about stuff, and they're great. And Gutowski is fantastic. I consider him a friend. We've had several meals together. I've prayed with him. He's a good dude. And he had Thomas Gibbons Neff on his podcast, and it was really interesting and inspiring. So if you go over, I've put links in the description to all this stuff. I've put a link to the article in the description, and it is a gift article, right? I have a subscription to the New York Times just for stuff like this, and I can give away gift articles. So no paywall on this one. You can click the link and read the article for yourself. It's a good one. And you can also go over and look at Gibbons Neff's background, and here's what you find. He's an enlisted Marine. He was a Marine Corps infantryman who did 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. Then he came home, then he worked for, oh gosh, I'd have to look it up, one of the Washington newspapers for a number of years, then went over to the New York Times. He worked over as a war correspondent for them in Afghanistan, and then as the head of the Kabul office for a time. Now he's on the beat for firearms stuff. So he's an interesting guy. And this particular article was a really interesting one about the changes in kind of what's selling in the gun space. And I think that anybody that's been into a gun store can really kind of resonate with this or see what's going on. And here's what they say. Sales of guns are way off in America. They're down. And why is that? Well, I have some thoughts on that weren't really covered in the article at all. I really think with the cost of gas and groceries being as high as it is, with inflation being up, real inflation being up, and people feeling pinched in their budget, there's just not as much money in there, not as much room for buying ammo and buying new guns. And they're like, man, I don't need a new gun. And I think even that's kind of seen somewhat in the article, because you see a thing like this that says even the best-selling AR-15, which in the last 2 decades has become known as America's rifle, is owned by so many Americans that it is not in such demand. And he says everyone's got one. One brick and mortar retailer in Minnesota said of his sales this summer. Here's an interesting one. A 2021 firearms survey conducted by a Georgetown University professor found that nearly 25 million people had owned an AR-15 style rifle. 25 million. You want to talk about the definition of in common use? 25 million American homes own, that's over 10% of American homes own an AR-15 style rifle. Certainly I do. But noting that even the most ubiquitous rifle in America, sales are slow because people already own them. And so they don't really see a note to do that. And they focus on a couple of stores in particular that I think are pretty interesting. So, and they focus first of all on this guy named Solomon Leonard. And he owns a company called Rooftop Defense. And it's just online, all right? I'm not gonna put a link to that. I don't know him. I don't have any, so I'm sure you could Google him. But Rooftop Defense, he is of Korean extraction. And of course, that is a nod to the rooftop Koreans from the Rodney King riots. And he says in here that, hey man, accessories are the root of my revenue at this point. He goes, selling guns, there's no margin in guns. And it's the high-end accessories, it's the real kind of drop culture, the limited edition stuff that's really it. Some interesting stuff I saw in the article. It says when Mr. Leonard opened in 2020, he sold just 7 items. Now he offers around 700. His customers buy gun accessories almost feverishly with little sign of slowing down. January was his best month since he started, it says. He includes in each order a packet of ramen and a pre-printed Post-it note. He had to stop writing them by hand a few years ago when business boomed. I know this addiction is expensive, the note reads, so enjoy a free meal on us. Customers also receive a copy of the Constitution. I know we had a sponsor for a number of years here at Active Self-Protection, Big Tex Ordnance, and BTO always put a copy of the Constitution and some candies and some stickers in their orders, and people always appreciated that. BTO is not a sponsor anymore. They've gone on in their own direction, but no smoke there or anything like that. They're good people and we wish them the best. And Ike and Maddie are really wonderful folks. So he puts a ramen in there and he said, man, this is expensive to have this hobby. So you should at least have a meal on us. And he, his whole culture in there is, hey, it's all online. It's him and one other full-time employee and his wife working part-time. So it's a very small operation, online only, working out of a warehouse. And there's an interesting bit that he says here that's interesting. He says the gun industry's shift to a drop culture, more common among sneaker and fashion brands, feels like a natural evolution. In an increasingly polarized nation, gun ownership in America has transformed into more of a lifestyle than a hobby or a policy position. And I totally agree with that. That's why guys like Coleon Noir are popular. He's not about, let's talk about the cool accessory. He is a lifestyle brand, is what Coleon Noir is. And I say that, I know him. I actually have his phone number. I have talked to him on multiple occasions, prayed with the guy. So I'm not talking from the bushes there, okay? And I'm not denigrating him either. The dude can shoot. And he passed law school. I don't think he's practicing as a lawyer, and I don't know if he passed the bar exam. But he's very smart guy. And his brand, his company, his stuff is all about lifestyle. Simple as that. And that's not wrong. It's put him in a good spot for what is here currently. So going back to the article, he talks about how Leonard and Rooftop Defense is all about selling the high-end accessories, all about modifications and homemade kits and military guns like exact replicas of the 416 and exact, from Afghanistan and what people would and people tinkering and that's how he makes his living. And so that's what keeps the businesses alive. I think that's interesting stuff there. And it says that it comes from this and he comes from that because he was a military brat. And so he got into firearms and he started his business with his wife when he needed to, and he's doing very well with it out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, and they talk about how the fact that there are some accessories that are kind of unobtainium, and doing drops of those when they can get a hold of them is a big deal. And really what they talk about, kind of the big deal in that, is CAC, is Knight's Armament Rifles. That and that's talking about a different store, A&M Tactical in Middletown, Rhode Island. But he's talking about there that, man, CAC, they sell mostly to military, and so they were just unobtainium. And so this guy worked really hard to be one of their private citizen retailers, and he got that. And so when they can drop items, he goes, they just sell out in nothing flat. It's like a little Barbie item. And when Leonard mentions a drop on Rooftop Defense on Discord or Reddit, it says he sold 400 Knights Armament battery caps in 90 minutes. Now, there's not going to be a lot of money in that, a lot of profitability for him in that, but those kind of drop culture are where it's at right now. And that's what we saw that just a little bit. The other person that they talk about, which I thought was really interesting, is Jordan Levine. And he's a firefighter and a former, a prior U.S. Marine. So there's no such thing as a former Marine. I know. Go ahead, crayon eaters. Give me a hard time about it. Jalapeno cheese is exactly like an orange crayon, right? You guys know I'm just giving you a hard time. My grandpa was wounded on Peleliu fighting under Chesty, so I got nothing but love for my Uncle Sam's miscreant children, all right? And I'm only serious. I really think it's interesting because I've been on Jordan's podcast, right? On A Better Way 2A. I appeared as a guest on there, and we really didn't talk about guns so much as life and parenting and spiritual convictions, which was actually pretty cool. And I think the thing that Jordan really sells, it's interesting, is here we have a thing that says his top sellers are stickers and patches, geared towards a growing number of firearms users that might traditionally avoid a gun range. Women, minority gun owners, and those in the LGBTQ community. And he says, I saw gun rights as something everybody should be able to exercise regardless of who you are. And I thought it was BS that certain groups perceived the gun community as unwelcoming to them. I love that attitude. And so he sells stickers, man. And if you are not a political lefty, you are not going to like his stickers. Okay? Just simple as that. But I do like the idea that we have every civil right for every single person. And that's a big and growing community, and a big and growing, getting big and a growing group of people who are saying, hey, we buy guns too. We're a part of the Second Amendment community. We believe in the right to keep and bear arms. The tide is changing here. So I think it's an excellent article. Read it and check it out. What do you think? I think it's totally right. What I'm seeing in the gun community in terms of what people are buying and what they're about is totally tracking with this. But I think it also points towards a broader shift and something that we have to recognize. And I'm going to just address you as your friend John here for a minute, okay? and that is, if you are in the more traditional political camp, the more right-leaning, conservative, Republican political camp, I want you to just take a minute and please just bear with me. And I'm not saying you have to become more left politically. I'm not telling you that. You have every right to your political positions. But I would encourage you to see the Second Amendment and stop force teaming on other issues with it, because the people who are coming into the Second Amendment, who are coming to into the camp of the right to keep and bear arms, don't agree with you on those other issues. So when you force team, if you say, hey, in order to be a Second Amendment supporter, you also have to this, then you push people away. And instead, we want to really have the entire country recognize that the Second Amendment matters, that the right to keep and bear arms is for all people, every civil right for every single person. And so we don't want to exclude anyone. And so we unteam, we decouple the civil right to keep and bear arms from other issues. For my friends on the left who are coming into gun culture, I have a thing. It's the same lesson. You've got to say, hey, wait a minute. The right to keep and bear arms, and I get it. A lot of my friends on the left right now again, active self-protection has one political position: the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's all ass pass. John, as a person, I'm kind of a wackadoodle libertarian in reality. That's just me, though. That's not the company. That's just me, okay? And I get it. I'm the face of the franchise. It's hard to disengage me from the brand. Please try. And so I don't go left or right. I get frustrated at everybody personally. But my friends who are on the left, I say, look, man, you can't say, hey, wait a minute, I want the right to keep and bear arms and everybody else has to agree with me or you're a Nazi. I just leave that other stuff as not the part that you're going to discuss here when we're talking about Second Amendment issues. We can have those other ones. You're entitled to your other opinions, and those are great. But just like I ask my friends on the right, hey, man, you've got to divorce the Second Amendment from some of your other stuff and say, we can get along on this issue and we can work together on this issue. I think we can do that. And it can actually be a backdoor way we can get to know each other better. And that will kind of tamp down some of the balkanization and some of the vitriol that we see between left and right now. And I think that's actually a path forward. And I think that's a good thing. So this article was really encouraging to me because I really think, number one, go read it and maybe leave a comment and encourage the times that Thomas Gibbons Neff is doing a good job. And he's actually not attacking gun culture. He's not attacking the Second Amendment. He's not attacking the right to keep and bear arms. He's not attacking gun retailers. He's just reporting facts. I think it was a really good article. Number two, I think that, yeah, he's right. Buying guns, there's very low margin in guns. And it's the accessories that people are buying like crazy and the lifestyle stuff like t-shirts. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Here's this one. I'm not going to show you the back because I'm sitting down right now, but this is our good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person t-shirt, which has got the ASP logo and written good, sane, sober, moral, prudent on it in the back. There's a link in the description. If you want one, you can pick it up on our website. And that's where people are spending money, because you can maybe for 20 or 30 bucks pick up a t-shirt, whether it's a Better Way 2A or a Rooftop Defense or an ASP t-shirt, whereas a new gun's going to cost you 6, 7, 8, 900 bucks now. Heck, even more sometimes now when you get an optic equipped pistol, might cost you 12, 1300 bucks. And that's a big ask for a lot of people, man. That's not a lot of folks have a lot, those kinds of ducats to spend. And so maybe a little bit less things, and you get some stickers to stick on your laptop or, on your stuff at home or wherever you do that stuff. I think it's an interesting shift. What are you seeing? If you're seeing those kinds of things, what do you think is causing that? And why do you think it's doing? And what do you think of this shift to folks marketing Second Amendment stuff towards non-traditional owners like women, like ethnic minorities, and like the LGBT community? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I thought this was a good article. Go check it out and let me know what you think.